So today is March 1st. What a relief that is.
What a relief is.
Relief because it's March.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
All right, so we're talking about rates, ratios, and proportions today. We've already studied proportions. So this is a kind of a review sentence here. A little bit of newness in it, but it's a review sentence, but it's hard for kids to fill in the blank. A proportion is in, do we remember what a proportion is? And we got a clue there with the A-N. Ethan? Never mind. Doesn't work with that, right? Has to start with a vowel. Jack?
Equation.
Very good, Jack. It's an equation that says two fractions, ratios, or rates are equal. We studied proportions kind of for the first time in January when we came back. We learned a way to solve them. Do you remember how we can solve proportions? No. What's the strategy we learned, Karen?
Do the cross multiply thing.
Yeah, the cross multiplying thing. We learned the extremes means property, or we just call it cross multiplying for short. So we can solve proportions by cross multiplying. And that's what you'll be doing on your homework to solve this. Which is great, you guys like that. Good? All right. We've been working with ratios all week long. We worked with them a lot last year. What is a ratio? What do we say a ratio was? Callie? It's a comparison between two or more numbers, right? And the other thing that we said about ratios is that they have the same units, right? We got to make sure we get the same units when we do ratios. So we got to compare inches to inches, seconds to seconds, that kind of thing. And then we drop those units. So a ratio of 5 seconds to 3 seconds just becomes 5 to 3. A rate is a special kind of ratio. It's a ratio that has different units. So you're comparing miles traveled to gallons of gas used, miles to gallons. You can't change miles to gallons no matter what. They're totally different things. One is a distance, one is a volume. So rates are ratios, they just have different units. We can use ratios or rates to set up proportions and then solve word problems. That's our goal for today. So here's a phrase that really is a proportion. 3 is to 4 and 9 is to x. There's two different ways we could write this with math symbols. Can anyone think of a different way to write it with math symbols? Please?
3 out 2, 3 over 4.
Come on up and write it. Good, except it's actually an equal sign in there. 3 is 4 and 9 is x. Very good. What's the other way we could write it? Other way. Ethan?
We do 3 colon 0.
Yeah, come on and write it. Very good. 3 is to 4 and 9 is to x. These are all proportions. These ones are, you're the most familiar with how they look, and that's your sign that you can cross multiply to solve them. But 3 ways of writing a proportion. All right, so we're going to use these ideas to solve story problems like this. All righty. On the back side, you don't have to copy it down. 3 basic steps you want to ask yourself. What quantity are you trying to find? And write a let statement for that. Then there's ratios in the problem that you're going to use to set up a proportion in order to solve it. And answer in a sentence. So add that. And answer with sentence. Roger, if you wanna read this problem for us?
The directions on a bag of concrete mix call for the addition of 3
Quarts.
quarts of water to 40 pounds of mix. How much water should be added with only 3 pounds of mix?
Okay, so we got some comparisons going on in this problem. We're trying to find something. What quantity are we trying to find? What is this problem asking us to find? Margaret?
How much water should be added?
Okay, so that's our variable, and we need to write a let statement. Callie, pick a variable.
10.
Let n equal, what's the n gonna represent, Tony? Yep. Water to be added. All right. Then go back and reread the first sentence and what two quantities are being compared to each other. What's a ratio that we can set up based on the first sentence? What two things are being compared to each other? Julian?
3 quarts and 40 pounds.
3 quarts, what is that? 3 quarts of what? What substance?
Water.
Water. Is being compared to the pounds represents what?
Mix.
Mix. It's a very good idea for you to just write in words the two things that are being compared. And then write the first half of your ratio. So Julian, you said 3 quarts of water to 40 pounds of mix. That's the first half of your proportion. What can we compare it to? 3 quarts is to 40 pounds as what is to what on the other side of our proportion? Margaret?
Is to 30.
N is to 30. Because N is representing the amount of water. Water has to be compared to or across from water, and mix has to be across from mix. That's why writing these words here sometimes helps kids make sure they stay straight all the way through the problem. We could have flip-flopped it. Julian could have compared 40 to 3, but then on the other side, he would also had to flip-flop it. It would have had to been 30 over n. So you got to make sure in your proportions that you maintain the same things across from each other. Okay? Now, how can we solve this? What can we do to solve it? Jason?
Divide.
Well, before we do any dividing,
Find out.
this is a proportion. What's the way we said we could?
Where you multiply, so 40 times.
Good, 40 n
90.
equals 3 times 30 or 90, right? That's from the cross multiplying that Connor remembered at the beginning, right? All right. Then you need to do what to solve it, Connor? Yes, Amy?
For the first 5, so 40 and... Wait, are we recording this?
Yeah. That's true. You could say 4n is 9. Or you could just do n is equal to, what do you got to do to solve it? Divide by 40. And there too, you can see that you could cancel, right? And what does n have to equal then? What is 9 divided by 4, Rhea? 2, is it 2.5? 4 goes into 9 twice, with what left over? 2.25, or 2 1/4, whichever way you want to write it. So that means our water added is 2.25 what? Let's figure it out and write it in a sentence. Answer. What's the answer to our question? How much water should be added? Kelly?
There should be 2 1/4 quarts of water added.
2 1/4 quarts of water should be added. to 30 pounds of mix. Okay, so when you do your homework, it should look like this. You should write a let statement, a proportion, solve it, and write your answer in the sentence. Okay? All right. Any questions about that? Anything you're confused about? All right. I give you a lecture and then you're all glum and kind of depressing faces out there. Unfriendly. Oh well, we'll carry on. All right, if 20 square meters of flooring costs $36, find the cost of 55 square meters of flooring. Do you get this or not? I want you and your partner to write a let statement and write a proportion and then stop. Because I want to show you that when you cross multiply, what equation would you get? Original equation would you get when you cross multiply?
C equals 55.
Good. What are you going to do? I know a lot of times you want to simplify this first, but sometimes it's smarter, move, and more efficient to not simplify first. If I want to isolate C, get C alone, what do I have to do? Rhea?
Divide 20 by 20 and 55 times 36 by 20.
Right. These will cancel each other out, and we're going to get this. If I don't simplify first, I can simplify it now, and it can be easier. Do you see any factors I can cancel? Yes? Out of the 55 and 20, and you get what? Good. Do you see any more simplifying you can do? Any more? Mason?
4 and 36.
And you get
9 and 1.
9 and 1. So calculation you only have to do is 11 times 9, which is what, please?
Wait, 99. How did you get rid of C? Oh.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my pointer that, make a little note here. It's often easier to simplify before calculating. Just a little pointer that might help you out. The last thing you got to do is write this in a sentence answer. So $99 is the cost of 55 square meters.